Welcome to this Inside Ag special. I'm Hunter Funk. The purpose behind agriculture is to feed and nourish people, but it's not that simple. The industry is constantly evolving thanks to the work of researchers, discovering more efficient practices. That research takes time, years of dedication, learning about a specific crop or animal. Some of this research could lead to more sustainable practices for farmers, or in some cases, create wildfire mitigation. Today, take a look at the possibilities of research and technology in ag.
What's good for the herd is good for the bird.
For years, ranchers and conservationists have debated whether cattle grazing could coexist with sage-grouse habitat. Now, a decade-long study based in the Bruno area may have the answer. We look at what researchers found and what it means for the future of grazing in the West.
Yeah, the heart of the question is are they compatible or not?
Across 75,000 acres of sagebrush in southern Idaho, a question was asked. Can cows and sage-grouse share land without harming one another?
The number of grouse in the world have decreased, especially sage-grouse in our part of the world. Been a pretty steady decrease since about the time they started measuring in the 1960s.
And more than 10 years ago, researchers began the quest of answering that.
They identified several Simplot BLM grazing allotments that contained leks with high numbers that also had a season of use in the spring, which allowed us the opportunity to participate in this study.
Led by the University of Idaho, the Bureau of Land Management, Idaho Fish and Game, and the USGS, the research tracked how livestock grazing impacts sage-grouse nesting. Researchers compared grazed pastures to untouched ones. And now, we fast forward 10 years and get the findings, which were surprising to some, but reassuring to many.
So after 10 years, we finally have the science and the data to prove what ranchers have been seeing for decades. Grouse and cows can live together successfully. What the study found was that livestock grazing did not have any detrimental effect to the nesting success of grouse within spring grazed allotments, and that removal of livestock from an area did not result in a higher success rate for the sage grouse.
Turns out sage grouse nest under thick brush, an area cows typically avoid. And the length of the grass doesn't impact the nesting process.
Grouse are not walking around and trying to look for ungrazed pastures. There was really no difference in nest density in grazed or ungrazed pastures, which indicates they're not selecting ungrazed places. And so that was also, I think, pretty interesting.
They say they study grouse because it's an indicator of what's going on in the rangeland ecosystem. And now that the study's wrapped, the focus shifts to restoration, using that same science to guide fire prevention and habitat recovery.
Making sure that we have a quick fire response to areas where there is critical sage-grouse habitat, I think is critically important. And then ensuring that we're getting the right funding put towards restoration post-fire to see these ecosystems come back and support sagebrush habitat for all sagebrush obligate species into the future is critically important.
The answers from the research are creating a clear path forward to how ranchers can approach livestock grazing, and opens the door for more land opportunity.
Grazing is an important ecological process, but it's also economically important. It's the backbone of all these rural communities that make Idaho, Idaho. Ranching is an important part of it, and now we show that if we do it well, we can do both grazing and have healthy rangelands and healthy wildlife. So to me, that is the win-win out of this.
Researchers say they'll be analyzing the data from this study for years to come, looking deeper into nest success, insect populations, and long-term rangeland health. We can see those get published over the next several years, but for now, the message is clear. Good grazing doesn't mean bad bird habitat. Well, taking two problems and finding a solution. We look at a research study at Boise State University aiming to prevent wildfires and the growth of invasive species while giving sheep producers more places to graze. Cheatgrass.
This is an invasive grass that increases the risk of wildfire and outcompetes native plants, and so it's a big management and conservation issue.
An issue growing in the Sawtooth National Forest, and one BSU Associate Professor Kelly Hopping says is growing faster than can be kept up with. A problem in need of a mitigation plan is seeing success. In 2022, Hopping, along with the U.S. Forest Service and sheep producers, received a grant to implement targeted grazing.
We are seeing if we can adapt the way that sheep are managed in those areas where they're already grazing in the summer, but if we can change the timing and intensity to focus them where the cheatgrass is when it's green, we're seeing if we can help reduce it.
Every fall and spring, the sheep are brought out to the researched areas to go eat. Those involved in the study take note of the sheep's habits and what impacts come from them.
We're seeing if by bringing sheep, we can target it without targeting the native plants as well. So it's a fine balance, and that's a lot of what we're learning and focusing on is how to get the timing right, how to get the intensity right to achieve that vegetation goal that we have.
She says they've learned in the spring the native plants and cheatgrass turn green, so the sheep eat both. But in the fall, only the cheatgrass turns green as long as there's rain, so it's helping them understand the best time frame for grazing. They also found out the sheep are learning too.
This last fall, we really saw, even without the herders guiding them closely, they knew where to go to the plots, and they would hit one and turn the corner and go to the next. And so it was just amazing to see their memory and their knowledge of the landscape as well.
She says she's not the only one passionate about the project, but sheep producers too.
This is an area that burned in a big wildfire in 2013, and it affected the areas where they are. So if they can be part of the solution for helping prevent that from happening again after they now have all this cheatgrass that came in after the fire and could perpetuate another fire, they're looking for solutions too. I think there's also a hope that if we can, by doing this research and finding what works, then we can make more informed management recommendations so the practice could be potentially adopted more broadly where it makes sense.
Now, there have been targeted grazing studies done on cattle before, but she says this is one of the first large-scale studies on sheep. The other side to this, she says the cheatgrass is growing higher and higher in elevation, and cattle only go so far, so sheep can be the answer for those problem areas. With more time to study this, it could open up more grazing opportunities for sheep producers. Well, coming up, sustainable farming isn't just a trend for a local winery. We're going to tell you how sheep are keeping its operation eco-friendly. If you've ever wondered what wine, sheep, bees, and McDonald's could possibly all have in common, well, you're about to find out. We show you a winery in Canyon County where sustainability isn't just a buzzword, but a way of life. On 35 acres in Wilder, you'll find one woman
What is my title?
who wears all the hats.
I do everything.
Everything includes owning Carey Hill Winery,
It's been all trimmed and pruned.
a place that takes their environmental responsibility
This is where our sustainability comes in.
very seriously. It starts with the sheep.
I have been raising Carey Hill sheep. Carey Hill sheep are only basically found in Northern Ireland, England, and Wales, and they're not allowed to be exported, and the United States does not import them.
Hard to find, but that didn't stop Mindy Mayer from spending years of breeding to get some.
And I was the first person last spring, a year ago, to have 4 ewe lambs born that were 100% and 2 ram lambs born. That the first in the United States. So I'm very proud of that.
Hard to find, but also hard to miss.
Black eyes, black noses, black knees, black feet, and then their wool is really very special.
And that wool goes here.
So I take the wool and we're going to be replacing it now. You can barely see the wool now. This is from a couple years ago, but that wool, it retains the water, it's antimicrobial, and it reflects up to ripen the grapes.
The entire winery is a live certified sustainable vineyard.
I'm only the second person in the state of Idaho to be certified. There's a lot of work, but everything that goes into the ground is measured, and it has to pass certain rules and regulations to get certified.
She's considered salmon safe, which means everything that goes into the ground and comes out into the river is safe for the fish. But wait, that's not all.
Then we're bee-friendly farmers.
She mentioned that she does everything, and she's right.
I don't know if I told you this either, but I own McDonald's restaurants.
And it's the McDonald's mantra that built her passion.
You will have gold standard fries and gold standard Big Macs, and your places will be gold standard clean, and you'll have gold standard customer service and product and everything. And that's how I kind of view my vineyard. It'll always be gold standard.
She even has a McHive for her bees at the winery. For her, it's about doing something good.
It makes me no money, except I have pride that I'm doing something to try to bring back.
And she has no plans of stopping soon.
Monarch butterflies.
At this winery, it's more than just
This is my Pinot Gris.
great tasting wine,
People are loving. Tempranillo, I've won a lot of awards with my Tempranillo.
but rather taking an earth-friendly approach to farming.
And it's just incredible how fast these grow.
Coming up, new research shows a link between tomatoes and potatoes. Next, why this matters for farmers and consumers. Idaho is world famous for our potatoes, but after research released this summer, maybe we should be bragging about our tomatoes? Well, a study finds the potato's family tree is actually rooted with tomato in its DNA. We look at the study and what this means for researchers here in Idaho.
Potato and spuds. I guess tater.
Potato or potato.
And tomato is definitely tomato.
No matter how you or a new study says it, we know the potato is a piece of Idaho's pride.
Research into the origins of potato has been going on for a very, very long time since potato became an important food crop.
We also know that today there are 107 wild potato species across the Americas. And the thing that all potato plants produce is this: underground tubers, or what we know as potatoes. It's a way for a plant to store starch and handle the seasons. But what we didn't know was where the whole potato lineage came from. But now scientists do. And it took root nearly 9 million years ago, after a new study published in Cell finds our spuds have a little tomato in its bloodline.
The tomato plant with beautiful red fruit derived from pollination of flowers is strikingly different than the potato plant with potentially small green fruit or no fruit.
Not twins, but more like cousins. Researchers say the potato's ancestors were basically a mashup between a tomato plant and this, E. tuberosum, a species of wild potato that doesn't have tubers.
Today's potato comes mostly, it's 40% from this wild E. tuberosum plant and 30% from tomato.
When they think that hybridization event happened, it was like about 10 million, 9 million years ago. One thing that was quite kind of interesting is they think that's when sort of seasons happened, they started to be regular seasons on the planet. So maybe that's why they developed the tuber, because, to survive through that off season, perhaps. Maybe that was the selection pressure there. The other thing that this study suggested is when the Andes kind of increased in elevation, they called it the sudden uplift. So that might have forced sort of evolution of the potato as well in that instance.
When you look at the potato industry as a whole, and you look at maybe what might be the greatest hybrid ever created in this potato hybridization event, I think that's exciting to celebrate.
It's a study all of these University of Idaho researchers have kept their eyes on, because these findings help guide their research about plant development and disease control.
So this is why this study, looking at the relationship between tomatoes and potatoes, is kind of exciting for us in a way, because we know that the disease often comes in on tomatoes into home gardens. That can transmit into our commercial potato production. So we're always kind of aware of that relationship between tomatoes and potatoes and how that translates to disease risk.
Which means finding a way to get reliable seeds for breeding potatoes resistant to disease and a changing climate, and give better insights for growers on creating a greater tater.
That connection is essential to the food that we eat today.
The UI Extension Office in Parma is also on high alert for farmers, a great resource there. They're able to detect airborne diseases that come from tomatoes and move to potatoes. And they are able to put out alerts to farmers to ensure they don't lose their crops to disease. So maybe it's time we start saying we're famous for our tomatoes that became potatoes. All right, how a plant-based diet for Idaho's fish farms is cutting costs and increasing sustainability. That's next. Fish are a great source of high-quality protein and omega-3 fatty acids, which are beneficial for heart and brain health. The Magic Valley is home to one of the nation's top fish-producing regions. We learned as our natural resources change, scientists are working on ways to make the industry more sustainable. In Idaho, you can find Thousand Springs State Park.
The immense kind of water resources that we have here are extremely valuable.
Multiple springs flow along the Snake River in the western Magic Valley. Many of them feed into the fish hatcheries.
All of our water comes from either seep tunnels or directly from springs upstream from us here.
The cold springs don't just feed our rivers, they're fueling innovation in aquaculture.
We're here at the Hagerman Fish Culture Experiment Station. These are our breeding raceways. So the raceways are these long cylindrical cement tanks, more or less. The way that we raise rainbow trout here is we take advantage of flow-through spring water. So we have water entering the raceways at the head boxes and then flowing in a very laminar flow fashion and then passing out through the raceways. Hagerman and Buell, all along this region of the Snake River, is really kind of a mecca for aquaculture in the state. We're #1 in rainbow trout production, #2 in sturgeon and caviar, #4, believe it or not, in warm water tilapia production, #5 in overall aquaculture product value.
Aquaculture is a big portion of the Magic Valley. All right, we raise rainbow trout more here than anywhere in the U.S.
But it's what the fish are eating that's creating a ripple in the industry. Traditional trout feed relies on ingredients like ground dried fish, which is expensive and increasingly hard to find.
Fish meal and fish oil have been the primary protein and oil sources in aquaculture. They are very limited. There's not enough now to go around to feed aquaculture it is. So we need a sustainable replacement source.
Because of this, USDA and University of Idaho researchers have been trying something new, developing rainbow trout that thrive on plant-based diets.
On that protein source, they can grow as well as they did on the fish meal, and without giving them fish oil, we still get those heart and brain healthy omega-3 fatty acids that were previously required to feed them fish oil, now using plant oils.
They started this 20 years ago, and today it's proving its success.
Diets are the #1 input cost for farm producers of aquaculture. So by being able to use those cheaper plant-based ingredients while still creating a very, adapted diet that's going to meet all of the needs of the fish, we're able to greatly reduce the input costs to those farmers and allow them to produce still a very nutritious and wholesome protein source for its human consumers, but at a reduced input cost, allowing the farmers to have just a little bit more profit margin, hopefully.
These scientists have been breeding fish that can digest corn, soy, peas, even sorghum.
It's selective breeding. So we've got a trait that we want to improve. We know the variations there, and we have selected on that trait.
The goal? Get these super rainbow trout sustainably raised without pressure on ocean ecosystems and to be safe for consumers.
We know what went into that fish. We know mercury is not going to be there. We know it's going to be fed and be appropriate for the consumers to ingest. And it's going to relieve that harvest pressure on those wild populations.
So how big of a difference could this research make for the producers? Well, put it in perspective. Idaho leads the nation in rainbow trout production and ends up on the dinner plate. So once this research is refined, and with around 80 fish farms in the Magic Valley alone, many farmers who make the changes to their feed could see a big cost savings. So more return on their investment. Do you have a story about research impacting farmers or innovative technology helping ag producers? Coming up on this Inside Ag special, we're going to tell you how to reach out so you can have your story told. Today we covered a lot. We learned tomatoes and potatoes are in the same family gene. We covered technology and research in the field of agriculture. You can find all of our stories at ktvb.com under the Inside Ag tab. And then we have a question for you. Do you have a story that you want out there, or that you just want other people to know about so they can learn more about agriculture? Be sure to send us your story idea at insideag@ktvb.com. One more time, insideag@ktvb.com, or you can text us at 208-321-5614. Just say, hey, Inside Ag, come cover this. We appreciate you for watching this Inside Ag special, and we hope you took something and maybe say thank you to your farmers.
And watch free now on the KTVB Plus app, everywhere you stream.